Good morning, friends, and welcome to day one of moving through the minors, looking at the aces of swords, air, and wands, fire, or as you can see in the card finder, scepters and quills for Shakespeare's tarot. So we're going to be starting with swords or air. As you can see with this technology, for those of you who are live, you can either choose to pin me or pin the cards or have us share screen. For those of you who are enjoying the recording, I'll do my best to give a little bit of back and forth. And right now, hopefully, everything is starting off with you being able to see both me and the cards. So for those of you who took moving through the majors, you will recognize this warm up. And so we're going to start from the feet all the way up. And we are going to move a little faster than we did during moving through the majors in terms of warm up, because we also are going to be doing pour breathing here. So starting at the ground, we're going to be doing joint rolls all the way up our bodies. If at any point your body says, nope, not doing that today, stop. Listen to your body. That is part of what we are doing here, is helping us remember to listen to our body's wisdom. You can also always opt to do things sitting down or even lying down. And I will do some demonstrations showing each level. So starting with the right foot in front, we're just gonna roll some weight on the outsides of our foot. Going in one direction and then going in the other, making sure that you have an equal amount of rotations in each direction. And when you're coming back around the heel, you can like really flex that foot up. And then when you've done an equal amount of rotations, bring that foot back underneath you, whether you are standing or sitting, or just keep it placed if you're lying down with your knees bent and feet on the floor. Notice what's different. Notice what's the same. Doing the same thing with the left. Weight on evenly around and round the foot. I may or may not be successful in having an equal amount on right and left sides going through this, especially for those of you who are watching the reruns. By all means, be specific for yourselves if you want to. Now, keeping our feet underneath us in some fashion, sitting, standing, lying down, popping the foot and rolling the ankle, but keeping the toes on the ground. Our ankles warm up all of the little connective tissue, warms up better with resistance than it does just like holding your foot up and rolling your ankle sort of thing. They both have their place, but just different places. And switching sides. My toes are very talkative and loud this morning. Wow. When you find places in your body that are like, oh, more of that, do it. Or, oh, nope, that's enough. Great. At any point, you may always choose to just imagine yourself doing all of these, visioning yourself doing them. Just make sure that you're doing it from an embodied place, that you're not watching yourself do the exercises, but that you are seeing through your own eyes, however that looks for you, because of course we all visualize a little differently. Up to the knees, 3 gentle circles in each direction. Part of why I say 3 here very specifically is to not stretch out the connective tissues and the tendons and things around the knees too much. Part of this is because of my own past with knee injuries, and opening your wet legs out wide and doing 3 gentle rolls, letting the knees fall in towards center line, and 3 gentle rolls, letting the knees fall away from the center line. And then moving up to the hips. Now with the hip rolls, you have a few different options. You can do true isolations, where you try and keep the top body very, very still and have all of the movement in the lower body. You can let the trunk and the knees get a little more involved in a sort of yummy round and round sort of thing, making sure that you listen to your back and your hamstrings, especially, as at least for me right now, it's a bit early in the morning. You may also choose to keep your torso still, but let the hips instigate the movement around, which is a different type of isolation. And while we're doing this, make sure that you are breathing well and deeply. Sometimes I like to sing while I'm doing this so that I make sure that I am breathing. And make sure that we stay loose and open in our legs. So before we get to our upper isolations, because now that we are shifting our focus away from the parts of our body that are most likely to contact the ground and shifting up into our torso and ribs and arms, neck and head, there can be a tendency to start to clench the knees. And so if you find yourself clenching your knees, relax with an exhale. Maybe give a little plie, a little bend in the knees before straightening up by pushing the feet into the ground. And so to feel, because what we are going for here is actually a nice, loose, open leg where the leg is straight, but the kneecaps are nice and soft. And so if you go back and forth a couple times between bending your knees, straightening by pushing into the floor, and clenching the quads and knees, and then relaxing them, that relaxed place is where we want to stay while we shift up into isolating and going around the ribs. So placing your hands right at your ribs and doing a few rotations in one direction, and then a few rotations in the other. And with shoulders, and here, if you have any sort of rotator cuff or connective tissue stuff, stay at some shrugs and letting them drop, and some shrugs and letting them drop, if that's something that your body can do sitting down. You can even do this lying down, but the shrug and down is much more intentional, since gravity is not working with you to drop those shoulders down. For those of you who have a little more rotation, bring your feet into a slightly wider stance, and I like to square my hips over my front foot. I have my left foot forward, and I'm going to be rolling my right arm now. I am not going front to back. I am going more around the side and crossing my front meridian. So for those of us that have some lovely fatty slacks on the fronts of us, you're probably going to feel them, and that's absolutely okay. The reason for this is how comes from my first Tai Chi teacher, and the way that the connective tissue, and then make sure you're doing even on both sides. The way that the connective tissue on your shoulders is that it is more in alignment with how all of the bits flow together, where if you try to go directly front and back, there is, like, when I do that, I can actually hear some like interesting crunches, that it's just not as ergonomic for most bodies. So I am going to come a little closer to the camera for this one, because we are shifting into neck, and what I call neck rolls, many people call head rolls, but for us, head rolls will be something different. So I like to close my eyes for this one, because I am imagining C7, where the neck ends and the thoracic chest begins of the spine. And starting the impulse from there, I'm going to let my head drop forward, and then letting the movement start from C7. I'm just going to gently let my neck roll around, and my head is going to follow, because that just happens to be how it's all connected. And you'll notice that in doing this, I keep my neck nice and long as I'm going around the back. We want to make sure that we keep space here at our cervical vertebra, so that we're not crunching anything. And if you have any worries around neck injuries or whiplash or anything like that, by all means, either do not do this, or another option is to just roll the head from side to side in the front. Haha. And another option is to let the head fall towards one ear, wrap the hand over. So when your head is to the left, your left hand will then be on top of your right ear. Gently letting gravity pull it down, having the right arm long at the side. And then if it feels good, gently push into that hand and release, and do that 3 times, a little bit of resistance. Stretching here, and then shift that left hand to being on the left temple. So it's like your head is really resting in that hand, and push against the head a little bit and release, and then push and release and push and release. And then let the hand go and let the head float back up to center. And if you've done that on one side, do it on the other. I like to inhale with the resistance and exhale with the release. Letting the head float back up. And now for head rolls. So if you put your hand at the back of your skull, where the skull meets the spine, there's a little divot there on most bodies, and you will notice that my neck will stay still and just my head moves. It's very much like drawing tiny circles with your nose or tiny circles with your chin. Anyone who has done Indian classical dance or Balinese classical dance, this will be pretty normal for you. All right. Now, give yourselves another body scan and notice what's different. Notice what's the same. So, this next exercise, before we jump into physicalizing the Ace of Swords or the Ace of Quills, we're going to do a technique called pour breathing. I am going to do this on the ground because that's what my body wants to do today. Whatever your body wants to do to be relaxed and able to visualize opening all of your pores, get into that position. And of course, you are welcome to move and change your shape. Pour breathing, as the name suggests, is breathing through each and every one of the thousands of pores we have on our body. I don't know exactly how many, what that number is, but it's a lot. And as many of you probably already know, the skin is a huge organ that is taking in information and nutrients all the time through the air. So we begin with the east, with air. And as we breathe and visualize, imagine that you are taking in air through every pore in your body. Feeling the breath open up all of the pores on your palms, between your toes, all of the parts of your body that are covered by clothes or not. And as you open your pores, front body, back body, side body, armpit, parts that are making contact with the floor or contact with another surface. Imagine them opening wide, wide mouths, drinking in air, the color yellow, color light blue, sky blue. Letting your whole body, pores wide, fill with the power of air, the power of soul, that energy, that power, soul. Pores are open wide on our faces, our eyelids, our ears, filling with yellow effervescence. And if you've been working with your eyes closed, you may open them and gently find a way to float, to look at your card, the Ace of Swords. Or if you want to work from memory and challenge yourself in that way, you absolutely may. Keeping these open pores. Notice the first shape that comes to mind from the Ace of Swords, or quills, or dancers, depending on what deck you are using. And take that shape and as you can see, you are welcome to change your level. Breathing into that shape. And maybe your shape wants to go from one side to the other. What happens when you play with weight in your shape? Letting it be very light, letting it be very weighted. Take another shape. Maybe sound comes out. And play with going from one shape to another. Going back and forth between your two shapes. Noticing when and how they want to breathe. Pores open. Yellows and light blues. Or if there is a different color that your specific tradition associates with air. I'm working from Western magical traditions and Wicca and reclaiming witchcraft. Maybe to choose your third shape, you need to take a look at what's there in the card. Maybe you don't. Welcome to change levels. Going from shape 1 to shape 2 to shape 3. Allowing the breath and the sound to fall out of you as you make these shapes. Changing direction. Changing tempo. Changing how you get from one shape to the other. And let that go. If you want to take a moment and journal some of your thoughts and observations, you may. You want to note the sensations of your body, how they may be different or the same from where you started. I cannot help but notice how differently resonant my voice is, how it's um, how it's coming out differently with less tension and seemingly less volume. But I don't actually know if that's true or if that's just a trick of my ear. It'll be interesting for me to watch these. I'm going to pin the cards for a moment so that you can see them. Shakespeare's quote for Ace of Swords, Ace of Quills in that deck. Action is eloquence, from Coriolanus. And decide where you want to do pour breathing for fire, whether you want to lie down, stand up, sit, go in between the two, 3. Come back to your body's energized and neutral. Close your eyes if that feels good for your body today. Or leave them in soft focus and just allow the face to relax. And finding a comfortable position. Bring your awareness back to your pores again. All of those little teeny tiny mouths all over your skin, hidden by clothes and hair. Inside the ear, underneath the breasts if you have them. And imagine all of those pores opening and drinking in fire. The heat, the reds and oranges. All of the pores open on your backside. Drinking in reds and oranges of fire. Maybe your fire is coming from the magma core of the earth. Maybe your fire is coming from the sun, the combustion of some stars and planets. Or maybe you're in a room with a fire in a safe container. Feeling the crackle in each pore. Bottoms of the feet behind the knees. Filling us with fire. And keeping those pores breathing fire. Look at or remember a shape from the card. The Ace of Wands, rods, scepters. And put your body into that shape. And when you're ready, choose another shape. And then go back and forth between your two shapes. Full of breath, full of fire. Playing with tempo. Going in and out of the two shapes quickly or very slowly. And everything in between. And when you're ready, add a third shape. And then add it into the rotation. Following your body and your breath. Noticing if there is a tempo that your body wants to stay in. Allowing the colors and the symbolism to resonate for you and your tradition. Noticing how poor breathing is easier, more difficult, something else entirely. As you go from shape to shape. Allowing yourself to break and change out of any patterns that you might be finding yourself in. And let that go. Notice what's different. Notice what's the same. You may stop for breathing and maybe give yourself a little shake. Now is a great time to write down any observations, things that you want to retain and remember, or voice dictate it. The Shakespeare quote that goes along with our Ace of Scepters, rods, wands, fire. Be not afraid of greatness, from 12th Night. Be not afraid of greatness. Be not afraid of greatness. So, coming back to your different shapes. Be not afraid of greatness. Is there one of your shapes that feels like Be not afraid of greatness or something else that has come up for you with the Ace of Swords. And remembering back to our Ace of Swords. I think I just said Ace of Swords when I meant Ace of Rods. Which is also apropos, because part of the reason why I wanted to do these two together is because there are so many similarities between swords and rods, their directions, their directness. And there are also so many subtle differences with them that I want us to be going back and forth between these now. So, remembering your shapes, and don't stress if you're like, I don't know. Let that go with a nice exhale, because whatever comes up from your body's sense memory, even if it is different from what we did before, is correct. So, bringing all of those six together from air and fire, seeing how they dance together in your body or your embodied imagination today. And for this part of the exercise and exploration, I'm not going to give a whole lot of prompts, because I want you to be listening to your own body and flow, staying especially aware of what it feels like in your body when you shift from shapes of air to shapes of fire. And what shapes follow which is absolutely allowed to change. And let that go. Take a little time to write down what you've noticed. And coming back to where we began, with the breath, with air. Remember your sequence. And notice if there is something in your sequence, and you can be doing it really small with yourself right now, from the macro to the micro. And notice if there is a gesture or a shape that you kept coming back to. Or maybe even a sensation like an expansiveness or a way you inhaled or exhaled. Because whatever that thing is, that sensation in the body, that shape of the hand, that buoyancy of self, that radiance across the chest, whatever that is for you, you may now turn into your anchor, your physical anchor for the Ace of Swords. And to make that your anchor, give it 3 intentional breaths. Maybe you want to do that at the same time that you are doing whatever shape or gesture has come up for you. Or maybe you want to lay hands on the part of the body that it comes from for you. Whatever that is. Give it 3 intentional breaths. And shift your body back to fire, to the Ace of Wands and Scepters. And notice what it is, what gesture, what shape, what sensation is the Ace of Swords, as the Ace of Wands, of Wands, of Wands, rods, scepters for you. And let that have 3 intentional breaths. And let that go. Notice what's different. Notice what's the same. Next class, we'll be dealing with the 2s. Do think about and feel how this work sits in your body today and tomorrow. And if you feel like your pores are still a bit too open to the world right now, and shaking it out and shaking it off was not enough for you, with your hands Give waterfall, hands all down your body, and make sure that you lay hands on the sticky places, the hard to reach places, or even potentially if there are some parts of your body that you cannot reach yourself, asking someone else to do that for you, part of your back. Or you can even allow a piece of furniture to help. Mm. Thank you all so much for your attention. You know that I love your comments and your feedback, so please leave them in the comment portion of the video. For those of you who are watching, feel free to email me at kate@grouptarot.com with things that come up. And of course, at any point within our series and until the end of November, schedule your additional one-on-one session with me where we can do deeper dives into some of the cards that come up, talk about processing and elemental stuff. We'll go wherever you need it to. Have a beautiful day.